Part 19. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 181. Chapter 181, Fruit Oil Lamp. 3 more please customize. Woo, is this the straw rope you want? Yu Ying retrieved several straw ropes from outside. Subai took a few straw ropes, picked out a few thinner ones, twisted them into one, and said, "That's it?" "Woo, what are you going to do?" Yu Ying was puzzled. Subai brought over the stone bowl filled with brown fruit juice and said, "I'm making a fruit oil lamp." The juice squeezed out of the brown fruit is not called fruit oil lamp. After all, it is not specially extracted. Fruit oil lamp, Yu Ying can be said to have 1 head and 2 heads. Subai smiled lightly and without explaining too much, put the straw rope in the brown fruit juice. After letting the whole straw rope be fully soaked, he used 2 wooden sticks to pinch out one end of the straw rope. Look, the next step is to witness the miracle. Subai raised the corner of his mouth slightly, put the wooden root into the fire pond and lit it. Then he put the burning wooden root close to the exposed end of the straw rope. In an instant, the end of the straw rope was ignited. A small flame was there. The end of the straw rope was beating like a dancing elf. Yu Ying's pink eyes were attracted by the dancing flame, and she said in surprise, "Is this witchcraft?" "This is not witchcraft, everyone can do it, this is the power of knowledge," Subai explained. He placed the fruit oil lamp on another stone table to prevent the fruit oil from splashing out, and then burning the wooden table, which would cause a fire. Yu Ying lay beside her, pink. His eyes kept watching the beating of the flame, and he murmured, "It's so magical. Woo, how long can this fruit oil lamp burn?" "If you keep adding fruit oil, it can burn for a long time, but the straw rope in the middle needs to be replaced all the time," Subai said softly. "The straw rope is not like the cotton thread on the other side of the earth. It will burn out easily, so you can only replace it quickly." Cool. Yu Ying's pink eyes showed full of admiration. "Bring me another stone bowl, and I'll make another one for you," Subai said gently. Although there is a fire pit in the tent at night, it is not completely dark, but the table is still some distance away from the fire pit. "I am busy at the table every night, because it is not like the lamps on the earth. It can make the whole tent bright, so you can only half lean to see things. If you do this for a long time, you will get myopia." Of course, Subai's physical strength is increasing little by little every day, and you will get myopia. This probably won't happen anymore. It's just that the fox-eared girl is different. She doesn't have the blessing of the system, and she's not a totem warrior. If she does this for a long time, myopia is just around the corner. It just so happens that you can make fruit oil lamps now, then it is very simple to make one more. Placing it next to the fox-eared girl can make it easier for her to see the linen cloth clearly, and she does not have to keep her head down to get close. Good. Yu Ying brought another stone bowl and some thin straw ropes. Subai followed the operation just now and squeezed a lot of brown fruit juice into the stone bowl, then twisted the hay into one and put it in. After lighting the hay, he handed the stone bowl over and said, "Put it next to you, but away from the linen and firewood. Don't light other things." "Clear." Yu Ying carefully stretched out her hands to take the stone bowl. The flame of the fruit oil lamp reflected on the fox-eared girl's delicate face, which actually added a lot of beauty. She carefully placed the fruit oil lamp on a large flat stone, and kept staring at it contentedly. Seeing the soft and cute look of the fox-eared girl, Subai really wanted to pinch her cheek. He smiled and sat back down, and continued to take out the materials for making witch dominoes. Preparing to make more witch dominoes. In addition to making witch dominoes, he also thought about other uses of these fruits. In addition to making fruit oil lamps, what else can he make? Forget it, let's have someone pick some more and bring them back first, Subai murmured to himself, before he can think of a better use, just hoard it first. The night passed by in a flash, and in the early morning of the next day, Subai was the first to open his black eyes. He saw that the fruit oil lamp on the table had been extinguished. Not to mention, the juice of these brown fruits burned without a strong smell. On the contrary, it smelled more like wild fruits, which made Subai very satisfied, as long as it didn't smell like when squeezed out. Woo, you got up really early today. Yu Ying also slowly got up. Good morning, Xiao Subai opened his hands and said with a smile, how is it? Did you sleep well last night? Last night he watched the fox-eared girl go to bed first. She fell asleep completely soon after lying down, and the fox's tail was waving unconsciously. You slept well. Where is the witch? Yu Ying responded softly. Me too, go and do your business. Subai poured himself a glass of water, mainly because he wanted the fox-eared girl to leave the tent so that she could sign in. I'm going to water the peppers first, and I'll come back later to make breakfast for Wu. Yu Ying whispered softly. The fox-eared girl left the tent with the barrel in her arms, trotting and jumping out. It looked like she was in a good mood today. Subai was happy to see the fox-eared girl lively every day. She used to be very timid, and she was very timid no matter what she did, for fear of causing trouble to others. Now it seems that most of her cautious personality has changed, and she is more lively, maybe because the two have been together for a long time. It's because of system. Sign in and open the assistance package. Subai summoned the system in his heart. Ding. Congratulations to the host for successfully signing in. Ding. Congratulations to the host for receiving primary aid, 2 pieces of ginger. Subai pursed his lips and thought for a moment, then said it's also a good thing. We have garlic, and now here's ginger. Ginger is also one of the seasonings needed for cooking. Especially in this primitive era, meat is very fishy. Adding some ginger can get rid of the fishy smell. Especially when processing fish, add some ginger when steaming the fish. Those fishy smells can be dissipated. There is a big river over there in the ancestral land, and the fish caught by then will have seasonings for cooking. Subai murmured to himself with satisfaction. He stood up and left the tent, thinking of burying these 2 pieces of ginger in the soil as soon as possible and then digging them up when he left. Tap tap tap. A few minutes later, Subai came to the pepper field and saw the fox-eared lady watering them. Yu Ying turned her head when she heard the footsteps and said in surprise, Wu, why are you here? Do you want to go to the toilet? She is still not used to this word, and the toilet feels awkward no matter how you say it. Third update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 182. Chapter 182, the 3 days of farewell will definitely be a treat for each other. 4 more please customize. No, I'm here to plant things. Subai shook his head slightly and spread his hands to reveal 2 pieces of ginger. Yu Ying took one piece curiously, put it under her nose and smelled it, then suddenly frowned and said, why does this smell weird? Smell it again. Subai smiled and said, he liked the smell of ginger very much. Yu Ying put the ginger under her nose again. After smelling it for a while, she raised her head and said, this smell is pretty good, it smells a little better. Right, this is called ginger, and it can be added when we cook meat. Subai's popular science guide. Is it the same as chili pepper and salt? Yu Ying asked curiously. The intention is different, but it can be said to be the same. Subai thought. To put it loosely, these 3 are seasonings. To put it more strictly, 2 are plants and the other is a natural product. Yu Ying heard words she didn't understand again, so she had to remain silent. He lowered his head and continued watering. Subai really liked the cuteness of the fox-eared girl. He walked to the edge of the field and simply dug 2 holes with a stick and buried the ginger. Woo, how long will it take to eat this ginger? Yu Ying can't wait. She hasn't tried the taste of ginger yet. It will take more than 100 days, but depending on the production speed of other crops, it will probably take more than 50 days. Subai thought. After planting peppers and sweet potatoes, the growth rate was a bit beyond his imagination. Now the peppers have blossomed and bear fruit, and a small green pepper looks particularly vibrant. As long as he waits a little longer, in 7 or 8 days, the harvest will be ready. Yuying waved her pink foxtail expectantly and asked Wu, "What does this ginger taste like?" "You will know then," Subai smiled mysteriously. Tap tap tap. Yanhua trotted over, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and said, "Wu, Xiao. Are you finished training?" Subai turned around and asked. Yanhua shook her long black hair and said proudly, "The time spent today is less than half of the previous days." As expected, he is someone who wants to become a warrior. He is very powerful, Subai praised Niojiao Niang. Because he knew that as long as he said this, Niojiao Niang would be happy all day long, and she would be energetic in everything she did for the rest of the day. Yanhua really liked hearing these words, and she could see with the naked eye that she slowly straightening her back. She calmed down her emotions and said confidently, "Wu, do you want to take a look at my training results?" Certainly. Subai's thick eyebrows were raised slightly. Yanhua grinned immediately and stepped forward first, heading towards the training ground. Subai smiled and shook his head, and asked the fox-eared girl to go to the tent to prepare breakfast for 3 people. Tap tap tap. 7 or 8 minutes later, Subai arrived at the training ground. People greeted Subai along the way. Everyone was very respectful. Which the preparatory soldiers on the training ground also said hello, and in the next second everyone became very motivated. They didn't want to be embarrassed in front of Subai, and they all wanted to show their best side. This is primitive, this is the purest behavior of the tribe. Yanhua took out the longbow that she usually trained and carried the quiver behind her back. "Take it easy," Subai said softly. He could feel that the horned lady suddenly became tense. Aha! Yanhua turned her head and responded, and her shoulders that were originally slightly hunched also relaxed. Niojiao Niang pulled the string to the shape of a full moon, and her red eyes stared sharply at the wooden stake not far away. If eyes can hurt people, if so, the seriousness of Niojiao Niang just now should be able to hurt the other party. This is also the first time Subai saw Niojiao Niang suddenly so serious. In the past, she always felt that she was frank, straightforward, and very cute. This time it surprised him a little bit. "Call out." Yanhua didn't aim for too long. From taking the arrow to setting the string and shooting, the series of movements were very smooth, without any delay. Benedict. There was a dull sound, and the arrow was nailed straight to the center of the wooden stake. The tail of the arrow was shaking violently, which showed how hard this shot was. "Call out! Call out! Call out! Benedict! Benedict! Benedict!" The horn girl fired 3 more shots in succession, and each shot hit the red heart. Her movements were also crisp and neat, and people didn't even react. "Wu, how is it?" Yanhua's originally fierce expression suddenly softened. Bang bang bang. Subai was stunned for a moment by this contrast, then reacted and clapped his hands, praising, "Sure enough, I will definitely look forward to seeing you for 3 days. Some time ago, the horn girl's archery skills were not so powerful. Although they can still hit the wooden stakes, they don't have the accuracy that they have now." Shivi-san, determined, mutually, "Wu, what are you talking about?" Yanhua was a little confused. This long unfamiliar word really made Niojiao Niang's eyes darken. "Ha ha ha, it's nothing, I just want to praise you for being awesome," Subai said with a slight smile. Yanhua put away her longbow and asked expectantly, "When we seize the ancestral land, can I go?" The reason why Niojiao Niang is training very hard these days is to wait for that day to come. "Of course, I'm going to, but you have to stay with me," Subai said softly. The reason why he said this was to protect the horned lady. After all, she has not awakened the power of the totem yet, so don't worry about her rushing out. Wu, I want to rush to the front. I want to kill the people of the Black Snake tribe, Yanhua solemnly said. Don't worry, you can kill them without rushing to the front. Subai raised his hand and pressed it. Yanhua blinked his red eyes several times and said doubtfully, how can you kill them if you don't rush out? Su Bai pointed to the wooden pile in the distance and asked, have you forgotten what you just showed? You can shoot the arrow through the opponent's head without getting too close. Yanhua patted her forehead with one hand and said, yes, why did I forget it? But, Wu, if I don't get close, I'm afraid I won't be able to aim at them. So you still need to continue practicing and not relax to ensure that you can hit the target at a longer distance, Subai said seriously. Those who rush to the front are all the totem warriors, and the reserve warriors have to stay behind to support with bows and arrows. And Subai also thought of a wonderful plan last night. This plan can make the Yanlong tribe come back again. Save some manpower. Yes, I will definitely continue to practice. Yanhua's red eyes became serious again. Come on, let's go have breakfast first. You can continue practicing after you finish. I have something else to give you. Subai stood up and said. Yanhua was stunned, struggled for a while, and asked, what do you want to give me? You will know when you go to the tent. Subai left the training ground first. Wu, wait for me. Yanhua put away her longbow and followed closely. Tap tap tap. Fourth update, please support and customize. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 183. Chapter 183, a piece of porcelain in exchange for a bag of dried meat. One more request for customization. Subai and the two returned to the tent, and the fox-eared lady had already prepared breakfast, which was a large iron pot of painazidum noodles. Wow, I ate some more. Yanhua rubbed her little hands happily. Wu, you can eat it. Yu Ying took out 3 wooden bowls and said with a smile, I knew Sister Ahua would come, so I cooked a little more. Thank you, Xiao. Yanhua said with a serious smile. Subai took the wooden bowl handed over by fox-ear lady and said softly, eat quickly. If he doesn't move his chopsticks, the two of them will just keep waiting. Although this is not a special rule of the tribe, the two of them have done so in tacit agreement. Good. Yanhua also picked up the chopsticks and ate quickly. Now the two of them can be said to be very skilled in using chopsticks. There is no noodles that they can't pick up, and they finish the noodles in the bowl in just a few clicks. Because they grew up, most of them eat meat, but now with pasta, you won't feel tired even if you eat it 3 times a day. The same is true for the tribesmen, and now painazidum noodle is one of their main foods. In addition to the meat that the totem warriors and preparatory warriors receive every day, they will also receive 2 extra bowls of painazidum noodles. Other ordinary people will receive 1 bowl of painazidum noodles a day, and the meat will be more abundant than before. It is stable, and you will get a little bit every day, but the quantity is not large. After all, the meat in the tribe is now supplied to totem warriors and reserve warriors in large quantities. Ordinary people are very happy to be able to eat meat every day. He knows that in Sud before Bai took over the tribe, it would only take 1 or 2 days for them to get some meat. And the meat would be eaten until the next time the meat was distributed. If they were lucky, it would be available every 2 days, but if they were not lucky, it would take 3 days. 4 days. How can it be as good as now? You can get some meat every day. Although the quantity is not large, it can ensure that you are not hungry every day. The painazidum noodle also greatly reduces this problem. Just eat some. It doesn't matter if it's meat or not, what's more, they love painazidum noodles more than meat. Wu, what do you want to give me? Yanhua put down the bowl and chopsticks with satisfaction. Subai also put down the bowl and chopsticks and said softly, Xiao, go get the linen clothes that you sewed for Ahua. Good Yu Ying immediately stood up and walked to her haystack. Num. Cloth. Clothes. Yan Hua said one word after another. It was obvious that she was very surprised. Her red eyes were already round. Subai took the linen clothes and handed them to Niaojiao Niang, and said, "This is for you, put it on, try it." "I sewed it according to Sister Ahua's body shape, so it should be right," Yu Ying said softly. She was a little envious of the fox-eared lady. She didn't have to sew a piece of clothing that big, unlike her who had to sew it as big as possible, otherwise it would be too tight and tight. If the fox-eared lady now the idea was revealed to the horned lady, and she was afraid that she would roll her eyes at the other party again. "Wu, I can't have it," Yan Hua shook her head repeatedly. She knew the importance of linen. A roll of linen could be exchanged for a lot of meat. This linen dress seemed to consume a lot of linen. Such a precious thing, the horned lady really couldn't afford it. "Dare to ask for it? You can exchange it for me. If you don't want it, I can only give it to someone else," Subai pretended to say. "No, I want it." Yan Hua excitedly ran out of the tent holding the linen clothes, preparing to go to her own tent to change into. Tap tap tap. "Sure enough, no girl can resist the temptation of new clothes," Subai murmured to himself with a smile. A few minutes later, Yan Hua put on the linen clothes and returned to the main tent with her black hair scattered. The horned girl's linen clothes fit very well, and were not as loose as the fox-eared girl's, because you still have to train every day, and being too loose will only hinder you. T-shirt style linen tops are easy to sew, and they are very concealable when worn, so you don't have to worry about being exposed. "Wow, linen clothes are so comfortable to wear." Yan Hua tugged at the corner of the linen clothes. "Just be comfortable." Subai looks a lot more comfortable. It's not as unsafe as the previous animal skin clothes. I could wear this every day." Yan Hua patted the linen clothes on her body. Subai smiled, picked up a glass of water, and said, "That's not possible. The clothes still need to be washed every day, otherwise they will stink." Yan Hua remembered the smell of not taking a shower last time, and then she felt uncomfortable all over. She curled her lips and said, "Yes, you have to wash it every day. Don't worry, Xiao is helping you sew the second one. Then you can change one piece a day, so you can wear linen clothes every day," Subai said with a slight smile. Yan Hua immediately shook his head and refused again and again, "No, you'd better use the sackcloth in exchange for food, don't waste it on me." "How much dried meat can be exchanged for a roll of linen cloth from Spotted Deer Market?" This is something that Niaojiao Niang has seen personally. She would never dare to ask for 2 pieces of linen clothes suddenly. "It's okay, there are still some in Azabu's tribe, and there will only be more in the future. Besides, we don't only have Azabu to exchange for dried meat." Subai sipped his saliva and said. Yan Hua blinked his red eyes curiously and asked, "Is there anything else in the tribe that can be exchanged for food?" "Think again," Subai said softly. Yan Hua turned her red eyes and said, "Is this the painazidum noodle we just ate?" "No, don't take that out and change it for now, think about it again." Subai shook his head. Yan Hua pointed his chin with his index finger and thought for a while, then suddenly said, "Is it those porcelain?" "Yes, those porcelain can also be exchanged for some food." "How much can be exchanged will be seen later," Subai said with a smile. He didn't know yet how primitive tribesmen would accept porcelain, but he had already thought about it. When the next Spotted Deer Market is held, he would ask someone to exchange some porcelain for it. Then we will know how much people of this era accept and like porcelain. "Those porcelains are so beautiful, I can definitely exchange them for some dried meat," Yan Hua said firmly. "Oh? So how much do you think you can get back?" Subai asked with great interest. Aren't there 2 ready-made primitive tribesmen in front of him? They should be able to give some reference opinions. Yan Hua thought about it seriously, raised his head and said, "I think a piece of porcelain can in exchange for a bag of dried meat." Subai nodded thoughtfully. This answer surprised him a little, and continued to ask Xiao Yu, what do you think? Yu Ying was stunned for a moment, then nodded weakly, and whispered softly, I think Sister Ahua is right. The porcelain is so beautiful. You can exchange it for a bag of dried meat. Why exchange a piece of porcelain for a bag of meat? It's not a bad deal, Subai said with a slight smile. Please update for support and customization. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 184. Chapter 184, Arrange other things. 2 more please customize. Wu, can I come in? Chinchi suddenly shouted outside the tent. Come in, Subai said. Tap tap tap. Chinchi walked into the tent with a face full of excitement and grinned. Wu, I've rested. Can I go find Brother Shifeng and Uncle Kinjian? The boy just didn't do anything all night last night. Except that Subai used a healing technique to treat the wound, everyone was surprised. Secondly, I have been thinking about Uncle Kinjian and the others, and I don't know how they are doing, so my little adventurous mind has begun to sprout again. Of course, if you feel your body is fine, go ahead. Subai raised his eyebrows slightly and said. Thank you, Wu, I will leave now, Chinchi immediately said. Wait, I still have a task for you. Subai stopped the boy who was about to run away. Chang Shi suddenly stopped and almost fell down. He turned around and asked what's the mission? The boy started to get excited, and for no other reason than because he heard the word mission and his whole body became more energetic. Pick some more of the wild fruits you picked yesterday for me, Subai ordered. Chang Shi's originally excited face was slightly disappointed. He thought it would be some kind of mission to hunt wild beasts. But he soon became excited again and responded with a loud voice, yes, I will definitely bring back a lot for the witch. Of course, Su. Bai saw the boy's micro-expression and said with a smile, this mission is not easy either. You can't get your hands dirty. If you get them dirty, I won't have any meat for you tonight. The juice of brown wild fruits is oily, and it is difficult to wash off if it gets on it. Ah! Chang Shi began to worry, and immediately said seriously, Wu, I will definitely complete the task. Go quickly, go back early and see if you can get to the tribe before Shifeng and the others come back. Subai put pressure on the boy again. He did this on purpose. Otherwise, the boy would not take his task seriously. He would only think that it was just picking wild fruits, and there would be no excitement from hunting ferocious beasts, which would increase the difficulty of the task. But it gave him a greater sense of honor. Immediately Chinchi ran away, took a big wooden barrel outside the tribe and flew away. Pu-chi, Pu-chi. Yanhu looked at the boy stumbling, rolled his eyes and said, children are easy to deceive. Ha ha ha, otherwise, how could he have a sense of urgency? Subai smiled heartily. Wu, I'm going to continue training. Yanhua said seriously, remembering what she said at the training ground in the morning, she was eager to continue training. Good, Subai said calmly. More than 7 hours later, it was afternoon and everyone had had lunch. Because of the hot weather and the roar of wild beasts outside, Subai felt a little sleepy, so he also took a nap. Nap. Wu, Chinchi has returned, Yu Ying said softly. Subai's black eyes widened slightly, and the tiredness that just woke up disappeared instantly, and she said in surprise, so fast. Yes, he was covered in injuries again and was at the door. Yu Ying nodded. Let him in, what a silly boy. Subai shook his head and said. Wu, I've completed my mission. Chang Shi carried a large barrel of brown wild fruits and placed it on the ground. He squinted his slender black eyes, stretched out his hands and said proudly, I didn't dirty my hands. Subai looked at the other party's wounds that had only healed last night. Today, his body was bloody again, with large and small wounds everywhere. He frowned and said seriously, although the mission has been completed, it's not right for you to do this. Seeing that the boy was covered with wounds, he was a little helpless and angry. He must have been coveting speed and coolness, hiding under the shadow of the trees and flying at high speed. That's why his body was scratched by branches and got so many wounds. These wounds were minor, so what if you accidentally hit your eyes or hooked your neck? Is it okay to kill you on the spot? There are already few people in the tribe. If you lose one more person because of this, it will be really not worth it. Chinchi was stunned, no thinking that the witch would be so angry. He lowered his head and whispered, "Witch, what did I do wrong?" How does the boy know this? He only knows that he has completed the task and arrived at the tribe before Shifeng and the others arrived. He is already very powerful, right? The next time you do a task, you should also pay attention to your own safety. Don't complete the task just for the sake of completing it quickly, but do it according to your ability, Sudbai said seriously. Chinchi looked at the wounds all over his body, nodded and said, "I understand, I will pay attention next time. I won't treat you this time, but let you remember a lesson." Sudbai continued to ask with a dark face, "Did you see Shifeng, Air and the others on the way there?" I saw it from a distance in the air, but," Chinchi was a little hesitant when he spoke. "But in order to complete the task first, you didn't go to meet them first, right?" Sudbai sighed. Yes, Chengshi was already prepared to be scolded. Sudbai blinked his black eyes and looked at the boy, and said, "However, this time the task was indeed completed very well, but next time remember to complete the task and remember yourself at the same time." Safety. It is really difficult for today's tribes to cultivate a totem warrior. They have to choose the right one from ordinary people, and then train them into reserve warriors. This process is not easy. Even if you become a reserve warrior, it may not be 100%. Anyone who can become a totem warrior depends not only on luck, but also on strength. It would be such a pity if the totem warrior is lost at this time. Thank you. Wu Chinchi had a smile on his face, and he didn't feel any pain from the wounds on his body. Go down and rest. There's no meat for dinner tonight. Sudbai wanted to give the boy a small punishment, but a big punishment. If not, the boy's childish mind will never grow, and it will be difficult for him to become a qualified totem warrior. Yes, Chinchi breathed a sigh of relief in his heart. This was the first time he saw Wu lose his temper. Although it was sad to have no meat to eat, as long as he was not severely punished, he vowed in his heart that he would never dare to do this again. Sudbai looked at the boy's leaving figure, blinked his black eyes and asked, "Has he always been like this?" Yu Ying has not yet come out of the atmosphere where Sudbai just lost his temper. She was stunned for a while and nodded yes. Cheng Shi is more playful. It seems like we have to arrange something else for them. Sudbai already had a different idea in his heart. Yu Ying scratched the back of her head and asked doubtfully, "Wu, what do you want to arrange for them?" "We'll talk about it later when Air and the others come back." Sudbai picked up the water glass at hand and continued, "Go and inform, let the chief and his people prepare to go to the outskirts of the tribe to greet them. According to this time point, it is almost time for Shifeng and the others to arrive at the tribe." Yes, Yu Ying nodded and left the tent. Tap tap tap. Second update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 185. Chapter 185, Do you also have linen clothes? 3 more, please customize. Yu Ying stepped to the training ground and said softly, "Chief, Wu asked you to take people to the outskirts of the tribe." Yan Jiao stopped the recurve bow in his hand and asked, "What's wrong? Wu, do you have any plans?" He saw the fox-eared girl put on the linen clothes, and he began to curse the horned girl in his heart. If she was also a witch, she would be able to wear linen clothes. Even though there were various opportunities to get her to become a Miko, she had to become a totem warrior. He had already thought about it, and he was going to talk about Yanhua in the evening. The witch said that the lost people of the tribe are coming soon and asked you to pick them up outside the tribe, Yu Ying said without missing a word. Oh? Have they arrived? There was a smile on Yan Jiao's face. He had received the news last night, saying that he had found Qinjian, Yu, and other lost tribesmen. Qinji saw it when he came back, and Wu said it was almost time, Yu Ying said. Okay, I'll take the people there now, and you can continue to take care of Wu. Yan Jiao said with joy on his brows. Yu Ying nodded, but before she could speak, she saw the chief running away quickly. He found Kang Shi and several other totem warriors and reserve warriors before leaving, and walked directly towards the outskirts of the tribe. Xiao, why are you here? Yan Hua stopped Fox Niang when she was about to leave. Yu Ying turned her head and said softly, Wu asked me to tell your father that Ai and the others are coming back soon. Really? Then let's go take a look. Yan Hua also became happy. I still have to go back to Wu's place, but I don't know if he wants my help in any way. Yu Ying was confused. Yan Hua pursed her lips and nodded, saying okay, then you go back to the witch's place first, and I'll go find my father and the others. Good, Yu Ying said softly. Tap tap tap. Yan Hua turned around and ran away excitedly. It could be seen from the way she was running that she was very happy. A few minutes later, Niao Jiao Niang also arrived at the outskirts of the tribe. Before she arrived, she saw the expectant backs of Yan Jiao and the others. Father! Yan Hua waved her hand. Yan Jiao turned his head following the sound and asked, if you don't go to training, why are you here? I came to see those tribesmen who were separated before the crisp sound of flame flowers sounded. Yan Jiao was about to turn his head when he noticed something was wrong. He turned back to look at Niao Jiao Niang and asked, where did the linen clothes on your body come from? Yan Hua subconsciously looked at his linen clothes, raised his head and said, this is what the witch gave me. Yan Jiao was stunned, came back to his senses and asked, why did the wizard give you linen clothes? You are not a Maiko. He didn't understand it at all. Just now he was thinking that being a witch was good because she could wear linen clothes, and he hated his daughter so much. Unexpectedly, in the blink of an eye, his daughter also changed into linen clothes. And she's not a witch yet. I don't know either. Wu Chen gave it to me, and Xiao Yu also had it. Yan Hua shrugged. It's normal for her because she is a Maiko. Yan Jiao was suddenly stunned for a moment and continued to ask, could it be that, are you a witch too? He suddenly felt as if his own pig had finally mastered the cabbage. For a moment, he suddenly felt like crying. No, Yan Hua said ruthlessly. Yan Jiao covered his face with one hand, knowing that he was overthinking, and asked, why did the witch give you linen clothes for no reason? My father should ask the witch himself. I don't want to take it. If the witch says he doesn't want it, he will give it to someone else. Yan Hua spreading hands. Alright, Yan Jiao didn't know what to ask. In short, this was a good thing, and it was just the first step. Later, her daughter might change her mind. Yan Hua kept looking deep into the forest and asked, Father, I heard Cheng Shi said it was Uncle Qinjian and the others. Well, with blue eyes, it can be said that the tribe's strength has returned a little bit, Yan Jiao said with great energy. I heard that Sister Yu is here too, Yan Hua said expectantly. What she wanted to see most was you coming back, because she had trained with you before. It's fine for anyone to come back, as long as it's someone from the tribe. Yan Jiao's tone became excited. He couldn't wait to see the lost people. If it weren't for the Black Snake tribe, they would still be living a stable life in their ancestral land. 10 minutes later, a slow movement began deep in the forest. Slowly, there were figures, from 3 or 4 at the beginning, to a dozen or so at the end, and even more and more. The figures slowly changed from the size of a black bean to the wheels, and the first thing they saw was Ai is flying ahead. Father, look, it's Ai and the others, they're back, Yan Hua said happily. Yan Jiao just nodded silently and looked at them excitedly with his red eyes. You go faster. Kangxi was so excited that he shouted loudly. Yanhua waved to Ai from afar, looking into the distance with his toes. A few minutes later, Shifeng led Qingjian and the others to the outskirts of the tribe. He plus Ai, there are 25 people in total. Chief, long time no see, how are you doing? Qingjian was the first to speak. On the way here, he heard that the chief of the tribe was taken over by Yan Jiao. At first, he was surprised that it was not Shan Shan. You must know that the most qualified person in the tribe to take over this position is Shan Shan. Yan Jiao, of course, Shan Shan is older, so his qualifications are better. When he heard that Shan Shan had no legs, his green eyes were full of regret, and at the same time he promoted Yan Jiao to the intermediate level. Totem warrior and rejoice. I'm fine. You've endured hardship, but now that you're back in the tribe, I won't let you endure hardship again in the future. Yan Jiao said excitedly. Kangxi patted Qingjian's back heartily and said, you took good care of them all. He saw that everyone else was pretty good, no one was missing arms or legs, and they didn't look like they had been hungry for several days. That must be. Qingjian also responded cheerfully and continued to ask, is the tribe okay? I'll take you to see the witch first, and I'll talk to you in the evening, Yan Jiao said in a deep voice. He suddenly felt that the three big men were sentimental outside the tribe. The beauty of the scene was really not good. Okay, let's go see the witch first. Qingjian can't wait to see Wu. King Muo, Kitu, and Mai Mao, you and the others should go down to rest first. As for the place to stay, I will arrange it later. Yan Jiao ordered. King Mu and the other three immediately stood up straight and responded in unison, yes, chief, wrap it up for us. Tap tap tap. Yan Jiao, Qingjian, and Yu began to walk towards the main tent, while Niao Jiao Niang followed closely behind. She hasn't seen the moon for a while and wants to stay with her for a while. Third update, please support and customize. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 186. Chapter 186, Is He a Witch? For more, please customize. Qingjian and Yu were brought to Subai's tent by Yan Jiao. The tent was full of people for a while. Not only were they there, Kangxi was also there, and the horned lady who had been following behind was also in the tent. Qingjiande was stunned when he was brought into the tent. He glanced around the tent and didn't see the old witch. He looked at Yan Jiao in surprise and asked, didn't you say you brought me to see the witch? Why is Xiao and another person here? Qingjian also knew about Fox-eared Girl and knew that she was Kangxi's niece. Her father and mother sacrificed their lives for the tribe. He is the witch. Yan Jiao said seriously, her eyes always signaling the other party not to talk nonsense. Yu was much smarter. When she followed into the tent, she inquired about the situation of the tribe like Niao Jiao. She knew in advance that the tribe's shamans were no longer there. It was an old witch, but he was led by a new witch. But what surprised her was that the new witch was so young. This made her very surprised, and she even felt that there was something wrong. Blue Eyes were stunned. Turning his head, he saw that Subai's throat was dry for a long time, and asked, are you a witch? He also couldn't believe it, how come the tribe suddenly changed its witch, and it was still such a young witch? Can such a young witch know witchcraft? Can he make witch dominoes, and can he lead a good tribe? These things they were all worried about him. Subai spread his hands, raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, what? Don't I look like that? Qingjian thought to himself, this is not a question of resemblance, this is simply impossible, right? He put away his inner activities and asked seriously, witch, are you the inheritor designated by the old witch? Although he still recognizes the old witch in his heart, Yan Jiao has said that the person in front of him is a witch, and he still has to respect others. Qinjian, he is the inheritor designated by the old witch, and the reason why our tribe is here now is all because of him. Yan Jiao pulled Qinjian very seriously, and continued the people in the tribe. He began to tell Qinjian the whole story in detail, and he was still thinking that he must teach Shifeng a lesson later, why he didn't tell anyone on the way here. After listening to the other party's explanation, Qinjian finally understood everything. He turned around and stood up straight, and said, "Wu, I'm really sorry. I was too excited for a moment and I didn't know what to do." Subai raised his hand and pressed it. He didn't mind very much, and said, "It's okay. Those who do not know are not guilty." "Don't know, none, crime." Qinjian subconsciously touched the corner of his forehead with a look of confusion on his face. This new vocabulary made him a little stunned, and he didn't know whether the sentence was a reproach or what it meant. "My name is Subai, and I am the new wizard of this tribe." Subai took the lead in introducing himself. He still respects these leaders in the tribe. After all, they have always lived in this tribe. In addition, most of the safety and operation of the tribe depend on them. He also didn't like to look aloof and arrogant. Qinjian nodded immediately, with an embarrassed look on his face, and said, "My name is Qinjian, and I used to be in charge of training within the tribe." "Wu, I am you, and I was also in charge of training before you walked forward from behind." She is a rabbit-eared girl, only 25 years old. She has long silver-white hair with white ears, and her eyes are silver-white. Her face is particularly beautiful and charming, and she looks very similar. She is an icy beauty, with a height of 1.7 meters and a very good figure. But the only flaw is the animal skin clothing on her body, which is a bit too small and looks like an adult wearing children's clothes. "Tell us about the things you encounter outside the tribe." Subai was a little curious about how they survived after being away from the tribe for so long. After all, there are no witch dominoes after leaving the tribe. You have to be careful in everything. Being injured is a troublesome thing. Yes, Qinjian nodded immediately and began to say, "After the tribe was attacked by the Black Snake tribe, you and I took the tribe people and started running into the forest." He was very calm when he started telling the story, but once he talked about the companions who were eaten by the ferocious beasts, he couldn't help but feel sad. When he talked about the harassment he encountered from other exiled tribesmen, he became very angry again. Among them, many of what he said were not very detailed, so you help fill in the details. Subai listened very seriously, blinking his black eyes, and asked, "Do you know the whereabouts of the other people in the tribe? This is the most important thing. Although many people in the tribe were arrested before, there were also many people who were separated. If we can find the people who were separated before we attack the Black Snake tribe and take back their ancestral land, it will really be a powerful addition to the tribe." "No, we also tried to look for them during the period, but since you and I didn't have witch dominoes, and others wanted us to protect them, we didn't look for them carefully." Qinjian shook his head and said, "Several times during this period we could have caught up with people similar to our tribe, but due to the inconvenience of taking them with us, we lost track of them," you said helplessly. Subai understood them. It was not an easy task to take more than 20 other people on the road, not to mention that none of them were totem warriors. It was difficult enough just to protect them, let alone find the tribe of others, and hunting. "I understand. Just take a good rest tonight and let the chief take you to get to know the tribe better tomorrow," Subai comforted. "The tribe now is not the same tribe as before. They still need to get familiar with many places, especially the other people in the tribe. At this moment, they should also really want to see Qinjian and the others. They can't wait to see them. I'll send you my condolences." "Yes," which Qingyan and the two nodded. "Chief, after getting them familiar with the tribe tomorrow, let them practice recurve bows," Subai ordered. Although the reunion was joyful, Training should not be left behind. After all, they have been away from the tribe for a while. I am afraid that some of their fighting skills have not been trained for a long time. They just happen to be proficient again, and at the same time, you can train the recurve bow. Anyway, when the time comes to attack the Black Snake tribe and regain the ancestral land, this recurve bow will be better than melee combat. Understand, I'll let them start training like everyone else. Yan Jiao nodded in response. Qin Jian looked confused and struggled for a moment before asking what is a recurve bow? Could it be the weapon that Jinshi injured me with? He recalled what Cheng Shi said at that time, which seemed to be that the weapon was made by a witch. Stone made you hurt? What happened? Subai doesn't know about this. That's when I was, Qin Jian told what happened yesterday when he met Chifeng in the forest. Subai raised his eyebrows slightly. He didn't expect this to happen. He smiled and said, you will know tomorrow, go and rest first. Good. Qing Yan nodded blankly. Fourth update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 187. Chapter 187, you relaxed on the first day. One more request for customization. Qin Jian and you were taken out of the main tent. They had not yet recovered from the fact that the witch had changed people. Inflammation, Chief Qin Jian still hasn't gotten used to the fact that Yan Jiao is already the chief, so he continues to ask how is the new wizard's conduct. He still wanted to find out how this young new wizard led the tribe. After all, in his opinion, the other party was really young, only a few years older than Xiaoyu, right? I'll show you around the tribe and you'll know. Yan Jiao doesn't want to explain too much. Instead of saying a lot, it's better to take him to see it in person, which will be more convincing. Good. Qin Jian also wants to have a good look at this new tribe. It's so dark now, do you want to rest first? You said coldly from behind. Mainly because she walked all day today and didn't sleep last night. Now she just wants to catch up on her sleep first and wait until everything wakes up. Yan Jiao raised his head and looked at the dark sky. He nodded and said, well, it's already very old, and no one is making linen or porcelain, so you can just watch it tomorrow. He originally wanted to take them to see the production of porcelain and the making of linen. The making of linen? The blue-eyed boss stared at him, suspecting that his ears had heard wrongly. Are you telling the truth? Is there anyone in the tribe making linen cloth? Making linen cloth is not a joke. He has never heard of anyone in the tribe making linen cloth before. He is also curious about what porcelain is. Where does this porcelain come from? I'll tell you tomorrow. You'll know when you see it, Yan Jiao said. There is no real thing to show them now, so it's a bit unclear. It's better to wait until they see it before explaining. Yu's slender eyebrows were slightly raised. When she was outside the tribe, she saw Yan Hua's body. The linen clothes, I think the chief is not a liar. Okay, so where will I rest tonight? Qin Jian asked. He felt a lot of comfort when he thought that he could finally sleep in a tent. He no longer had to stay up all night to stand sentry. Both Qin Jian and Yu were like this. One of them stood sentry all night, and then after sleeping the next day, the other person went hunting. Yesterday the witch told me that you would arrive today, and I had already made arrangements. Yan Jiao looked determined. After he received the news, early this morning, he quickly set up a few tents. Anyway, there have been a lot of wild beasts hunted recently, and there are also a lot of animal skins pulled out. To build a tent, it is not difficult to build a leather tent, but it is rare to find those wooden houses. 2 of them are for Qin Jian and Yu to live in, and the remaining few are for reserve soldiers. The rest of the people have to be a little crowded, with several people sharing one tent. Very good. Qin Jian couldn't help but said happily. Aoki and Akito, you two, take them down to rest, and then roast some dried meat for them. Yan Jiao ordered. King Mu and Kitu immediately stood up straight and said in unison, understood. Kinjian and Yu were taken down. After eating the barbecue, they fell asleep contentedly. They almost fell asleep with anticipation. Gurgling. 1111 Goo Goo. The voices of various birds and beasts kept shouting, and the Yanlong tribe ushered in a new day. The sun shines all over the tents, and it has a different kind of beauty when viewed in the morning light. Kinjian was the first to open his eyes and sat up straight. It might be a conditioned reflex of being in the wild for a long time, and he couldn't sleep too late. He stood up and stretched his body. It was comfortable to sleep in a tent. He had not felt this feeling for a long time. Although when I lay down last night, I was still a little nervous. After all, I had been sleeping in the wild for so long and couldn't completely relax. However, the reflection of the patrolman coming and going outside the tent made him slowly feel at ease. Kinjian opened the tent curtain and walked out, muttering to himself, it's better to have a tribal feeling. Woke up, Yu suddenly appeared behind Kinjian. Kinjian was stunned for a moment and asked, why do you appear here? Why did you get up so early? Got up for a while. Yu fiddled with her long silver hair and teased, on the first day you came back, you relaxed. Kinjian suddenly felt embarrassed and retorted, it's not that I'm slacking off, it's because you don't make any sound when you walk. Excellent totem warriors walk without making any sound, you ruthlessly exposed. Yu, Kinjian was indeed too relaxed, so he changed the subject and said, let's go see if the chief is up. He has been up early and is waiting for you, Yu said coldly and walked towards the chief's tent. Kinjian touched his green horn awkwardly and said to himself, I didn't expect that I would be embarrassed on the first day after I came back. Tap tap tap. A few minutes later, the two arrived at the door of Yan Jiao's tent and began to wait for him to come out. Are you awake? Yan Jiao stepped out of the tent. Good morning, chief. Kinjian said hello. Yan Jiao pointed to a fire pit not far in front of the tent and said, eat breakfast first, and then I'll take you to see it after eating. Good. Kinjian happened to be hungry too. Yan Jiao took the two of them and sat down by the fire pit, and Kangxi also came over. He touched his belly and smiled heartily, ha ha ha, I'll come and eat with you too. Come and eat my flesh again. Bring your own flesh. Yan Jiao waved his hand towards Kangxi. Come on, I don't eat much. Kangxi smiled. Haven't you eaten much yet? Yan Jiao suspected that he had heard wrong. He didn't believe anyone. Kangxi's purple eyes looked directly at the meat, urging, okay, let's eat quickly. You're really rude. Yan Jiao shook his head helplessly. There really was nothing he could do. Good morning, chief, Uncle Kangxi, Uncle Kinjian and Sister Yu Ying said hello softly while holding a wooden bucket. This is what the fox-eared lady must do every morning, which is to water the peppers and sweet potatoes. Morning, Xiao, are you up? Kangxi asked. When I got up, I had made him painazidum noodles, Yu Ying responded. Kangxi nodded, continued to eat his own meat, and said the painazidum noodle made by Wu is really good. Painazidum noodles? What is that? Yu asked curiously. Yan Jiao turned to face the person behind him and ordered, go and prepare 2 bowls of painazidum noodles. Yes, the woman nodded lightly and left. Yu looked at the man's leaving figure, then turned around and asked, Chief, what is painazidum noodles? You'll find out later. Yan Jiao smiled slightly. Please update for support and customization. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 188. Chapter 188, Shocking Blue Eyes. 2 more please. Customize. The 2 girls brought over 2 steaming bowls of painazidum noodles and placed them on a stone. You guys try it, this is a food invented by witches, it's really good, Yan Jiao said strongly. Kinjian looked at the container in a daze and asked, our tribe, when did this exist? Yan Jiao looked in the direction pointed by the other party and explained, those are porcelain bowls. I only have two. The witch gave them to me. I will take you to see how they are made later. These two porcelain bowls were given to him by Subai. They are one of the finished products of making porcelain for the first time. Porcelain bowl, Kinjian felt like he was out of touch with the entire tribe, as if he was an outsider. Eat it quickly, it won't taste good if it's cold. Yan Jiao urged. He understood why the other party was suddenly stunned. After all, he had just left the tribe not long ago. The entire tribe had changed. Although it was not a big change, there were still many differences. The combination of these few places is enough to make people feel different, especially since the witch has been changed. It is inevitable that he feels weird. To be honest, he also felt that something was wrong with Subai at first. Such a young person wanted to how to shoulder the heavy responsibility of the entire tribe. But when he thought of the old witch's determined eyes and the changes in the tribe bit by bit, he was completely convinced. Kinjian nodded thoughtfully, picked up the porcelain bowl and started to put it in his mouth. Pour noodles. Wait, that's not how it's eaten. Yan Jiao quickly stopped the other party. Ah, Kinjian was stunned, and the action of pouring noodles also stopped. Yan Jiao took the porcelain bowl, picked up a pair of chopsticks and began to demonstrate how to pinch noodles, and said this is how to eat noodles. You was watching very seriously. She picked up the chopsticks and imitated the pattern, and then successfully ate the first bite of noodles. After she swallowed the noodles in her mouth, her silver-white eyes lit up and she was amazed. Said it's delicious. Kinjian saw that the other party had successfully eaten the noodles and praised them for being delicious, and he became anxious. He used the chopsticks clumsily, picking up some noodles unskillfully, and when he was about to eat them, they slipped down again. I don't believe it. It can be said that Kinjian was very competitive with chopsticks. His hand holding the chopsticks was particularly clumsy, and he continued to pick up the noodles. He tried back and forth many times before he successfully took the first bite. This noodle is delicious. Blue eyes widened, and his ears twitched. Every time he was excited, his ears would twitch. It was a little personal trick. Very few people's ears would move on their own, unless they were beast ears. He lowered his head and continued to eat the noodles with unfamiliar chopsticks. He finished the noodles and soup in 3 strokes. Kinjian wiped the corners of his mouth stained with soup and said with satisfaction, this is really good. It's so delicious. What did it come from? The chewiness and taste of the noodles gave his taste buds a whole new experience. It was no longer just the smell of barbecue. You also finished the bowl of noodles, put down the bowl and chopsticks and asked, this shouldn't be meat, right? It's not meat, it's made of grass. The flaming horn is a bit hard to describe. I just know it is made of a kind of painasetum. I found this grass. I didn't expect that witches would use it to make food. It's really amazing, Kang Shi said quite proudly. Kinjian touched his belly and said in surprise, is it really made of grass? What the hum can you make so delicious? I was dubious at the time, but it was indeed made of grass. Yan Jiao thought that he looked like this when he ate it for the first time. Kinjian became more and more curious about this new wizard and couldn't wait to ask, Chief, please take us to see the tribe. Don't worry, there's still meat left to eat. Are you full after just one bowl of noodles? Yan Jiao asked. Oh, yes, and some meat. Kinjian smiled and touched his belly. Half an hour later, several people finished breakfast. Everyone ate a lot of meat. Because the tribe's recent meat was still enough, they all ate it openly. Is there a lot of meat in the tribe recently? Kinjian said curiously. In the past, even in the ancestral land, meat was almost never eaten like this. Everyone had a corresponding portion, and they would not eat until they were full like this. The tribe's meat reserves are still sufficient recently. The next meat exchange will be in a few days. There will be meat again then, so feel free to eat. If there is not enough, there will be painasetum noodles. Yan Jiao said with a smile. The life of the tribe is much better now than when it first started. More than 300 people in the tribe have enough to eat every day. Swapping meat next time. Going to Spotted Deer Tribe. How long does it take to get to Spotted Deer Tribe? Kinjian asked curiously. When he was in the ancestral land, he also led people to the Spotted Deer Tribe to exchange things. It will probably be 2 days later, when they will have someone carry the dried meat over. Yan Jiao said. This is what they said when they left last time. In addition to answering questions about cooperation, they would also carry dried meat over to trade for linen cloth. What can we give them in exchange for so much dried meat? Kinjian is very curious about this. This is what I want to show you next. Yan Jiao said with a smile. Tap tap tap. He brought Kinjian and Yu to the classroom. At this moment, Subai was teaching, and they were watching from the door. Everyone took out the notebooks in their hands and began to write down the numbers from 1 to 20. Those who couldn't write out the numbers would get no meat at night. Subai put his hands behind his back, patrolled the classroom, and continued, if you can write them all, add a wild egg tonight. Since the simple breeding shed was built, the pheasants inside have gradually begun to lay eggs. At first, those people didn't know what the eggs were going to be used for. If Subai hadn't said that they would keep them to make panesedum noodles, and boiled eggs, otherwise these eggs would have been destroyed long ago. Yes, which the furry children responded in unison. They lowered their heads and took out their quill pens and notebooks on wolf's tail paper and began to write silently. Everyone was very serious, and some were even biting their feathers and thinking about how to write. With the blessing of wild eggs, everyone is very easy to learn. As the saying goes, there are rewards and punishments. Knowing that if you can't write well, you won't get meat, and if you can write well, you can get extra food, so these people will work harder. Kinjian was stunned when he saw it. He didn't expect these people who are usually naughty and mischievous. The boys he was used to were so obedient. This was secondary. The most important thing was that they were learning to read. He even suspected that he had seen it wrong. Kinjian rubbed his eyes, took a serious look, and asked, Chief, they are learning to read? Yes, witches come every few days to teach the furry children how to read, and people from the tribe also learn to read when they have time. Yan Jiao said with a smile. Second update, please support and customize. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 189. Chapter 189, Feeling Ashamed. 3 more, please customize. Kinjian was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say for a moment. In his impression, no one in the tribe could read. Why is it different now? Even if the new wizards are literate, they will teach these words to the furry children. This really surprised him. He looked at it for a while to make sure it was really teaching literacy. Kinjian came back to his senses and asked, how long have the witches taught them how to read? Can you do it too? It's been a while, and I know a little bit about it. The witchcraft is not difficult, it's easy to learn. Yan Jiao said in a low voice. Some time ago, not only the children, but also the adults would study together for several days. But they were all in batches. After all, there were still many things to do in the tribe, and it was impossible to gather them all at once. Literacy. It is divided into several batches to learn literacy. Of course, they all start with simple numbers. Adults have better understanding ability than children, so the learning interval is longer, and more can be taught at one time. Does this mean we can also learn to read? Qing Yankao stared blankly. You must know that literacy is something only small tribes can do. He didn't expect that the Yanlong tribe could also read, and it was taught by the shaman himself, which really surprised him. Of course, You can also listen along with me the next time I teach witchcraft. Yan Jiao nodded. Qin Jian nodded thoughtfully and began to look forward to the next teaching time. 10 minutes later, Subai put away the paper that the furry children had written on silently, then checked it and began to those stupid kids were rewarded and punished. After doing all this, Subai walked away. When he walked to the door, the chief even greeted him. Tap tap tap. What to do now? Qin Jian saw that all the furry children had left, and the animal skins around the tent were also surrounded. What comes next is the point. Yan Jiao led the three of them and walked towards the classroom. After the classroom was sealed, the tables and chairs were put aside, and a large open space began to be cleared. Paper-making stone mills, porcelain turntables, and weaving cloths, the wooden frames were moved out, and some raw materials were also moved out. What are they doing? Qin Jian said doubtfully. Paper making, porcelain making, and linen weaving. Yan Jiao said with a slight sense of pride. He didn't know why. He obviously didn't invent these things, but when he introduced them, he felt a sense of pride. This feeling may be because the tribe is becoming more and more, it's a good reason, so I was very happy during the introduction. What is paper making? What about making porcelain? Qin Jian felt that he had absorbed too much today, and his brain was buzzing. He continued, I know Azabu, but it's just that. But when will our tribe make linen? Is this also a new witchcraft? Yu Jaikingian's words. These were all thought up by the witches. At that time, the witches said that we could also make linen cloth. I was really shocked. Kangxi laughed. Yan Jiao walked to the linen weaving machine and said, look at it, this thing is really amazing. Qing Yan was naturally unwilling to let go of this novel gadget. His green eyes were staring straight at the wooden machine. Frame. A tribal woman started weaving according to the previous steps. With the sound of the wooden machine, a roll of linen was produced in more than an hour. Qin Jian was very surprised when he held the roll of linen cloth, and said dumbfounded, we have really made linen cloth. You also looked at it very seriously, reached out to touch the linen cloth, and said it feels very comfortable to touch. Most of the dried meat in our tribe is obtained in exchange for this linen cloth, otherwise, now, almost half of the more than 300 people in the tribe are hungry. Yan Jiao said seriously. By the way, when I came, didn't Chifeng say that there were only about 70 people left in our tribe? Qin Jian didn't know why there were more than 300 people now, and most of them were unknown to him. Yan Jiao put down the linen in his hand and said, because Wu has accepted several people from other tribes. Which, accept people from other tribes? Why is that? Qin Jian said doubtfully. With the more than 70 people left in our tribe, it is impossible to recapture the ancestral land. Those more than 200 people are our best helpers, Yan Jiao explained simply and crudely. He didn't understand it at first. The tribe had no meat to eat, and there were more than 200 people in the tribe. Their food was a problem, and housing was also a problem, but since he understood after seeing the truth, he couldn't help but feel ashamed of his narrow thoughts. Of course, he didn't think as much as Subai did. He just thought that these people were from other tribes and could not be sincere to the tribe, etc. He didn't expect that these people had been in exile for a long time. What they really want is a stable tribe. As long as they are given meat, they will help the Yanlong tribe. It is almost impossible for the Yanlong tribe to expand simply by giving birth to cubs. The only way is to accept foreign tribes. People. This is the fastest and most convenient way, and it can also harvest a group of elites back. Take back your ancestral land? Qin Jian was stunned for a moment and continued to ask, you said we want to take back our ancestral land. Of course, we must take back our ancestral land, Yan Jiao suddenly spoke very loudly. Qin Jian nodded without hesitation and responded firmly and forcefully, yes, we must take it back. I'm going to take you to training in a moment. You first have a look at the making of linen and porcelain. Yan Jiao's tone began to calm down. Well, Azabu is indeed a good thing, and Xinwu is really powerful. Qin Jian began to admire Subai from the bottom of his heart. Because in his impression, linen is the exclusive product of the Yema tribe, and it is impossible for other tribes to make linen. This is the making of porcelain, made by Lu Lai. Yan Jiao continued to introduce everything in the classroom. Of course Qin Jian knew Lu, and smiled at him, and then watched his operation. A piece of soil turned into a round mud ball under Lu's skillful operation. When it is placed on the turntable and rotated, it changes into another shape. How is this going? Qin Jian said in shock. Yu also looked at it very seriously and was shocked when he saw that the original mud ball turned into a bowl shape. This is porcelain, the bowl you just ate noodles from is made of this. Yan Jiao became proud again. Amazing. Qin Jian was amazed again and again. He knelt down and watched Lu's operation carefully, wondering but why are the colors different? What he saw was still a pool of earthy color, which did not match the color of the bowl of noodles he had eaten in the morning. Third update, please support and customize. I was a village chief in a primitive society. Author, Big White Monster. Chapter 190. Chapter 190, Worse Than a Girl. 4 more please customize. Just be patient and watch, you will understand at the end. Yan Jiao explained with a smile. Although Qin Jian looked confused, he still nodded and continued to watch Lu's operation. Lu has been making porcelain for several days, and he is extremely smooth from kneading clay to drawing and shaping. More than a dozen in just a few minutes, Lu made a bowl and then placed it in the open space next to it to dry. When he made more, he would take it out to dry. It turns out that this is how porcelain is made. Qing Yan has become more knowledgeable. It's not over yet, there are 3 steps to be done. Yan Jiao shook his head and continued, before we get to the next step, I'll show you how to make paper. Okay. Qin Jian immediately stood up and followed. Yan Jiao took the 2 of them to stay in the classroom for a while, and only after seeing the perfect system of paper making, did he take them away. Tap tap tap. When Qin Jian walks, he always looks back 3 times, like an old child, full of curiosity. He calmed down and asked, are these all really witches' ideas? Really, so our witch is really good. Kang Shi walked in front of them excitedly and said. Qin Jian was shocked beyond measure today. He began to feel a little regretful. It would have been better if he had always been in the tribe. These days of leaving the tribe made him completely out of touch with the tribe. There were many things that he had never seen before. This feeling really felt like he was an outsider. He took a deep breath and said seriously, well, I will continue to guard this tribe. Me too, Yu responded seriously from the side. Her senses were also washed away today. In order to regain the ancestral land, Wu has asked us to start training new weapons, so the 2 of you must follow suit. Yan Jiao suddenly became serious. He no longer had the sense of relaxation that he had at the beginning of introducing things, and was replaced by a sense of seriousness. Good. Qin Jian and the other 2 also became serious. Tap tap tap. 10 minutes later, Yan Jiao brought the 2 to the training ground. He did not rush to let them start training, but let them observe first. Boo-hoo-hoo. Tuck tuck tuck. The people on the training ground pulled longbows and aimed at the wooden stakes one by one, and fired the arrows in their hands in unison. Almost in the blink of an eye, all the arrows shot by everyone were nailed to the wooden stakes. Because the inertia was still there, the arrow tails were shaking violently. Qin Jian obviously felt that his eyes couldn't keep up with the arrows. He didn't even have time to blink before the arrows were nailed to the wooden stake. He slowly withdrew his gaze from the wooden stake and asked, this weapon is the one used by Chang Shi, right? Well, this is called a longbow, and it's a weapon used by preparatory warriors. Yan Jiao said in a low voice. It has great lethality. If it could hit the enemy every time, then this weapon would be powerful. Kinjian sighed. Yan Jiao nodded slightly and said this is used by reserve warriors. It is a weapon exclusive to our totem warriors. Kinjian became excited. He touched the green horn out of habit and asked, what kind of weapon is it? Yu also became curious, withdrew her silver-white eyes and asked, is it similar to the weapons they use? Well, it's called a recurve bow. Wu said it is an enhanced version of the long bow, and its explosive power is even stronger than the long bow. Yan Jiao said word by word. Kangxi nodded heavily at the side and continued, I have tried it, and it can penetrate the leather armor of the stone-armored crocodile. The green pupils of the blue eyes widened slightly, and he said in surprise, really, can it shoot through the leather armor of a stone-armored crocodile? Of course he knows about the ferocious beasts like stone-armored crocodile. Ordinary stone knives and bone knives cannot cut through the leather armor of stone-armored crocodile. You will know after watching my demonstration. Yan Jiao didn't want to explain too much. The best explanation is to demonstrate it himself. He took the recurve bow handed over by others, slowly walked to the front of the wooden stake, and started to take aim when he was far away. Got it? Call out. Benedict. Yan Jiao was very skilled in a series of operations. In just one breath, the arrow in his hand had already appeared on the wooden stake. The only difference this time was that the arrow was not just nailed to the surface, it penetrated directly through the wooden stake, leaving only a small knock of the arrow outside. Hiss. Kinjian took a breath, recalling that if Chinchi had held this recurve bow instead of a longbow that day, he might have been dead long ago, and even the witch dominoes would have been unable to recover. The silvery white of the moon, her eyes were like a lake, beginning to ripple, and she looked eager to try. This is the power of the recurve bow. It is not difficult to operate, but the difficulty lies in aiming, Yan Jiao explained. Moreover, this recurve bow requires a lot of strength, and it is just suitable for us totem warriors to use. It is not light at all, Kang Shi added. His blue eyes were the same as Yu's, with words written on his face, try it for me, try it for me. He asked, Chief, can I try this recurve bow? I want to try it too, Yu said immediately. Certainly. Yan Jiao handed over the recurve bow in his hand and said, be careful. He repeatedly emphasized how to use the recurve bow, as well as some precautions. Kinjian just nodded, took the recurve bow and rushed to the wooden stake, operating it according to the method he just learned. As the arrow leaves the string, the result is not that it hits the stake, but that it veers directly off course. Of course he refused to admit defeat and tried several times in succession, but the result was the same, he almost couldn't reach the wooden stake. Don't be discouraged, Wu said, this is not a simple thing, you must train every day. Yan Jiao comforted him. He knew that he missed the wooden stakes one after another, and in front of so many people, it was inevitable that he would lose face. Cough, cough, cough. Thinking of this, he coughed several times, thinking that it was definitely not because he felt the same way, but just ordinary comfort. Kinjian, let me try, you take a rest first. Yu Qinglang stretched out his hand and said. Kinjian gritted his teeth and handed over the recurve bow. He secretly thought that he must learn this recurve bow. He must be like the chief. He was already secretly competing with Yan Jiao. Yu weighed the recurve bow and found that both the feel and weight were very suitable for her hands. She followed the two people's operations just now, pulling the string and aiming at the stake. Call out. Benedict. The arrow left Yu's slender fingers in response, and headed straight towards the wooden stake. A dull sound rang out. It hit the red heart. Cough, cough, cough. Yan Jiao coughed several more times, but he didn't expect that the opponent could hit it with the recurve bow for the first time. Kinjian was also stunned. She felt that she had been so embarrassed just now. She didn't expect that she was not as good as a girl. Fourth update, please support and customize.